Jump right in. Finally, Benny came out. He looked trim. He looked fit. He wore black trousers and a white shirt, buttoned at the neck but no tie. I understood something for the very first time when I looked at that shirt. I understood that expensive shirts look better than cheap shirts. The fabric wasn't shiny. No, shiny would be cheap, but it glowed like there was light coming through from the inside. It was a fucking beautiful shirt, is what I'm saying. Benny's office was awesome, and I don't mean that in the male teenage skateboarding sense. Remember, this was 1997 when the word was not ubiquitous yet. I mean it in the old-fashioned literal sense. The desk was a giant jet black oval with a wet-looking surface like the most expensive pianos have. It reminded me of a black ice skating rink. Behind the desk was nothing but view, the whole city flung out in front of us the way street vendors fling out their towels packed with cheap, glittery watches and belts. That's how New York looked, like a gorgeous, easy thing to have, even for me. I stood just inside the door, holding my fish. Benny went around to the other side of the wet black oval of his desk. It looked frictionless, like you could slide a coin over the surface and it would float to the edge and drop to the floor. "Have a seat, Scotty," he said. "Wait," I said. "This is for you." I came forward and gently set the fish on his desk. I felt like I was leaving an offering at a Shinto shrine on top of the tallest mountain in Japan. The view was tripping me out. "You're giving me a fish?" Benny said. "That's a fish?" "Striped bass. I caught it in the East River this morning." Benny looked at me like he was waiting for the cue to laugh. "It's not as polluted as people think," I said, sitting down in a small black chair, one of two facing Benny's desk. He stood, picked up the fish, came around his desk, and handed it back to me. "Thanks, Scotty," he said. "I appreciate the thought, I really do, but a fish is bound to go to waste here in my office." "Take it home and eat it," I said. Benny smiled his peaceful smile, but he made no move to retrieve the fish. "Fine," I thought, "I'll eat it myself." "Talk to me, Scotty," Benny said. "You have a demo tape you want me to hear? You've got an album, a band, songs you're looking to have produced. What's on your mind?" He was leaning against the front of the black lozenge, ankles crossed. One of those poses that appears to be very relaxed, but is actually very tense. As I looked up at him, I experienced several realizations, all in a sort of cascade. One, Benny and I weren't friends anymore, and we never would be. Two, he was looking to get rid of me as quickly as possible with the least amount of hassle. Three, I already knew that would happen. I'd known it before I arrived. Four, it was the reason I had come to see him. "Scotty, you still there?" "So," I said, "you're a big shot now and everyone wants something from you." Benny went back around to his desk chair and sat there facing me. "Come on, Scotty," he said. "You write me a letter out of nowhere, and now you show up at my office. I'm guessing you didn't come here just to bring me a fish." "No, that was a gift," I said. "I came for this reason. I want to know what happened between A and B." Benny seemed to be waiting for more. "A is when we were both in the band chasing the same girl. B is now." I knew instantly that it had been the right move to bring up Alice. I'd said something literally, yes, but underneath that I'd said something else. We were both a couple of asswipes, and now only I'm an asswipe. Why? And underneath that, something else. Once an asswipe, always an asswipe. And deepest of all, you were the one chasing, but you picked me. "I've busted my balls," Benny said. "That's what happened." Ditto. We looked at each other across the black desk, the seat of Benny's power. There was a long, strange pause, and in that pause, I felt myself pulling Benny back, or maybe it was him pulling me, back to San Francisco when we were 2 out of 4 flaming dildos. Benny, one of the lousier bass players you were likely to hear, a kid with brownish skin and hair on his hands, and my best friend. I felt a kick of anger so violent it made me dizzy. I closed my eyes and imagined coming at Benny across that desk and ripping off his head, yanking it from the neck of that beautiful white shirt like a knobby weed with long, tangled roots. I pictured carrying it into his swank waiting room by his bushy hair and dropping it on his assistant's desk. I rose from my chair, But at that same moment, Benny got up too, sprang up, I should say, because when I looked at him, he was already standing. Mind if I look out your window? I asked. Not at all. He didn't sound afraid, but I smelled that he was. Vinegar, that's what fear smells like. I went to the window. I pretended to look at the view, but my eyes were closed. After a while, I sensed that Benny had moved closer to me. You still doing any music, Scotty? He asked gently. I try, I said, mostly by myself, just to keep loose. I was able to open my eyes, but not to look at him. You were amazing on that guitar, he said. Then he asked, are you married? Divorced, from Alice. I know, he said, I meant remarried. It lasted 4 years. I'm sorry, buddy. All for the best, I said. Then I turned to look at Benny. He was standing there with his back to the window, and I wondered if he ever bothered to look out, if having so much beauty at close range meant anything at all to him. What about you, I asked. Married, 3-month-old son. He smiled, a waffly, embarrassed smile at the thought of his baby boy, like he knew he didn't deserve that much. And behind Benny's smile, the fear was still there, that I'd tracked him down to snatch away these gifts life had shoveled upon him, wipe them out in a few emphatic seconds. This made me want to scream with laughter. Hey, buddy, don't you get it? There's nothing you have that I don't have. But 2 thoughts distracted me as I stood there smelling Benny's fear. 1, I didn't have what Benny had. 2, he was right. Instead, I thought of Alice. This was something I almost never let myself do, just think of her, as opposed to thinking about not thinking about her, which I did almost constantly. The thought of Alice broke open in me, and I let it fan out until I saw her hair in the sun. Gold, her hair was gold, and I smelled those oils she used to dab on her wrists with a dropper. Patchouli, musk, I couldn't remember the names. I saw her face with all the love still in it, no anger, no fear, none of the sorry things I learned to make her feel. Come inside, her face said, and I did. For a minute, I came inside. I looked down at the city. Its extravagance felt wasteful, like gushing oil or some other precious thing Benny was hoarding for himself, using it up so no one else could get any. I thought, if I had a view like this to look down on every day, I would have the energy and inspiration to conquer the world. The trouble is, when you most need such a view, no one gives it to you. I took a long inhale and turned to Benny. Health and happiness to you, brother, I said. And I smiled at him for the first and only time. I let my lips open and stretch back, something I very rarely do because I'm missing most of my teeth on both sides. The teeth I have are big and white, so those black gaps come as a real surprise. I saw the shock in Benny's face when he saw. And all at once, I felt strong, as if some balance had tipped in the room and all of Benny's power, the desk, the view, the levitating chair, suddenly belonged to me. Benny felt it too. Power is like that. Everyone feels it at once. I turned and walked toward the door, still grinning. I felt light, as if I were wearing Benny's white shirt and light was pouring out from inside it. Hey, Scotty, hold on, Benny said, sounding shaken. He veered back toward his desk, but I kept walking, my grin leading the way into the hall and back toward the reception area, my shoes whispering on the carpet with each slow, dignified step. Outside the building, I walked directly to the box where I had mailed the letter to Benny a few days earlier. I bent my neck and squinted up at the tower of green glass, trying to count the floors to 45. And only then did I notice that my hands were empty. I left my fish in Benny's office. This struck me as hilarious, and I laughed out loud, imagining the corporate types seating themselves in the chairs in front of Benny's desk, one of them lifting the wet, heavy bag from the floor and then recognizing it. Oh, Christ, it's that guy's fish, dropping it, revolted. And what would Benny do, I wondered, as I walked slowly toward the subway? Would he dispose of the fish forever, then and there, or would he put it in the office refrigerator and take it home that night to his wife and baby son and tell them about my visit? And if he got that far, was it possible that he might open up the bag and take a look, just for the hell of it? I hoped so. I knew he'd be amazed. It was a shiny, beautiful fish. I wasn't good for much the rest of that day. I get a lot of headaches from eye damage I had as a kid, and the pain is so intense that it throws off bright, excruciating pictures. That afternoon, I lay on my bed and closed my eyes and saw a burning heart suspended in darkness, shooting off light in every direction. It wasn't a dream because nothing happened. The heart just hung there. Thank you.